So good evening, എല്ലാവർക്കും നമസ്കാരം. കേരള ഇന്നോവേഷൻ ടോക്ക് സീരീസിലേക്ക് എല്ലാവർക്കും സ്വാഗതം. വിദ്യാർത്ഥികൾക്കിടയിൽ ആശയ രൂപീകരണ സംസ്കാരം പ്രോത്സാഹിപ്പിക്കാനും അത് വർദ്ധിപ്പിക്കാനും വേണ്ടി KDSKിന്റെ ആഭിമുഖ്യത്തിൽ നടക്കുന്ന കേരള ഇന്നോവേഷൻ ടോക്ക് സീരീസിലേക്ക് എല്ലാവരെയും ഹാർദമായി സ്വാഗതം ചെയ്യുന്നു. ഇത് നമ്മൾ ഈ രണ്ടാമത്തെ സീസണിലെ പ്രഭാഷണ പരമ്പരയാണ്. ആദ്യം ഏതാണ്ട് 25 പ്രഭാഷണങ്ങൾ കഴിഞ്ഞായിരുന്നു. ഇത് രണ്ടാമത്തെ സീസണിലെ രണ്ടാമത്തെ പ്രഭാഷണമാണ് ഇന്ന് നടക്കുന്നത്. ഇന്ന് നമ്മോടൊപ്പം ഈ പ്രഭാഷണ പരമ്പരയിൽ പങ്കെടുക്കാനായിട്ടും ഒരു പ്രഭാഷണം നടത്താനായിട്ടും വന്നിരിക്കുന്നത് മിസ്റ്റർ ക്രിസ് നായർ. ക്രിസ് നായർ അദ്ദേഹം ഇന്ന് നമ്മളോട് സംസാരിക്കുന്ന ഒരു പ്രത്യേക ടോപ്പിക് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഒരു ജേണിയാണ്. സോ യു വിൽ ബി ടോക്കിംഗ് അബൌട്ട് ജേർണി ഓഫ് എൻ ഓൺട്രപ്രനർ ടു ഡെമോക്രാറ്റൈസ് ഔട്ടർ സ്പേസ് ഫോർ ഓൾ. അപ്പോൾ അദ്ദേഹം ഒരു സ്പേസ് സ്റ്റാർട്ടപ്പുമായിട്ട് ബന്ധപ്പെട്ട വ്യക്തിത്വമാണ്. So talking about Chris Nair, he is the founder and CEO of Kava Space, an Indian space tech startup. So Kava builds critical infrastructure for space mission. In June 2020, the central government decided to allow all private sector investments in space sector. And following this, the startup approached the Indian Space Research Organization with research and development proposals, and in which Kava Space is one of the leading startups to reach the forefront. Their flagship product, Kava Platform, is a planet-scale geo-intelligence tool for researchers and businesses to know more about on our Earth and how it is changing. So previously, Chris led ExitSat-01, India's first private space mission. He spent at last around 14 years in this Indian space startup ecosystem as a founder as well as team member and also a contributor. So the GeoInt platform enables teams to all sizes to decode their area's interest using simple API calls. So this is what Kava as a startup in space does, and he is having around 14 years of experience. അപ്പോൾ അദ്ദേഹത്തിന്റെ ആ ഒരു എക്സ്പീരിയൻസും അവർ സ്പേസ് ടെക്കുമായിട്ട് ബന്ധപ്പെട്ട അവരുടെ പ്ലാറ്റ്ഫോമുമായിട്ട് ബന്ധപ്പെട്ട് എന്തൊക്കെയാണെന്നുള്ളതും അദ്ദേഹത്തിന്റെ ഒരു ജേർണി തന്നെയാണ്. ഓൺട്രപ്രണർ സ്പേസിലേക്കുള്ള ഒരു ജേർണിയും അതുപോലെ തന്നെ അദ്ദേഹം അതിനകത്ത് പറഞ്ഞിരിക്കുന്നത് ഹൗ ടു ഡെമോക്രാറ്റൈസ് ദി ഔട്ടർ സ്പേസ്. ഈ ഔട്ടർ സ്പേസ് എങ്ങനെ ഡെമോക്രാറ്റൈസ് ചെയ്യാം എന്നുള്ളതിനെ കുറിച്ചുമായിരിക്കും അദ്ദേഹം ഇന്ന് പ്രഭാഷണം ചെയ്യുന്നത്. KDSKിന്റെ പേരിലും ഇവിടെ ഒത്തുകൂടിയിരിക്കുന്ന എല്ലാവരുടെ പേരിലും ക്രിസിനെ ഹാർദമായി സ്വാഗതം ചെയ്യുന്നു. അടുത്ത ഒരു 25 മിനിറ്റോളം ക്രിസ് നമ്മളോടൊപ്പം അദ്ദേഹത്തിന്റെ ഈ ജേർണിയെ കുറിച്ചല്ല അദ്ദേഹത്തിന്റെ യാത്രയെക്കുറിച്ച് നമ്മളോട് സംവാദിക്കുന്നതാണ്. അതിനുശേഷം ഒരു 15 മിനിറ്റ് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ആൻസറിങ് ആയിരിക്കും. അത് നിങ്ങൾക്കുള്ള ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് as participants, if you have any questions, you can put it in the chat box, and myself or my colleagues are there, so they will read it for you, and Chris will answer. Over to you, Chris.
Hey, thanks a lot. Hi, good evening, everybody. Super excited to be here. Like Manoj mentioned, I'm the founder of Kava Space. Our ambition is primarily to build critical infrastructure required for all space missions, specifically looking at imaging missions. I will divide the conversation into 3 parts or so. I'll generally talk about in the space, in the satellites for about 5 minutes. We will double click more on what excites me and how we are building certain things and platforms, and potentially, probably also we'll have the time to kind of generally talk about how the next generation can actually work on problems which matter to our planet. Then of course we can have a Q&A. I'm just going to share my screen. You can pretty much we can be happy to kind of come back to any of these things later. I hope everybody can see the screen. Right, let's do this.
Yes.
I am not much of a public speaker, so there will be a lot of issues generally, but let's try it. This is so first thing first, the company is called Kava Space. Kava means river in Japanese. If you look at the logo, you can see 3 lines, that's how probably rivers are represented, but it's most, that's how like Kava is written in Japanese. Why pick the name? First of all, like I grew up around rivers. Also, from a larger thesis point of view, pretty much all the great civilizations emerged on the banks of any river. If you look at like, any lasting civilization, we are hoping that by building the critical infrastructure required for it, we can make a new industry thrive. And of course, like, give a lot of opportunities back. The larger thesis we are working with is fundamentally around how can software scale the whole industry. To understand that, you need to understand, okay, there is some problem, how satellites are built. I am fairly certain a lot of you are aware of what a satellite is. There are multiple type of satellites. There are the communication satellites, your dish TVs, your everything. Pretty much, you guys are aware of ISRO and the missions they have done in the past. Just to kind of get the perspective right, so I've made a small graph of sort where you kind of know the height fundamentally. Probably like, there is a the place you can jump, or like, you can just send the value rockets to most of the area you go up. 450 kilometer to 700 kilometer is what we call a low Earth orbit, right? Pretty much your dish TV, your Tata Sky, and all the C-band communication things, anything which need your cable TV, including all of it, which operates in a geostationary orbit, which is probably like many thousand kilometers above. But I'm not talking about that today. My area of interest is low Earth orbit, anywhere from 400 kilometers to up to about 700 kilometers. This particular place is exceptional in a certain way, because sending a satellite, you need like rockets, right? Rockets are your courier services. It's fundamentally like you attach a weight and shoot it up, and it will drop in random places. So this is fundamentally, like, for me, it is the best place for placing a satellite which wants to click pictures of our planet. Pretty much from a business point of view, I am assuming a lot of you guys are entrepreneurs, because the cost of going up is very low. So when I was in my undergrad days, probably 1 kilogram of weight to carry it to, say, low Earth orbit probably costed around 10 crores, right? In 2018, for 1 kilogram was 88 lakhs. When I'm doing mission planning right now, per kilogram, to take it up to 500 kilometers, it is around 4.5 lakh rupees. Right? In the last 15 years, the cost of sending anything to space has come down drastically, which means, like, some of you guys will probably, as a part of your final year program or just for time pass, you can pretty much build a small satellite. It's not going to cost much money, and do a partnership with, like I have done it with SpaceX. There is ISRO's PSLV in here. Just shoot it up and try it out, right? But let's come back to the low Earth orbit. The plan, if you observe all the people who was doing it, I'm not talking about national agencies, ISRO, NASA, Allah, the private companies, there are going to be almost like 10,000 plus imaging satellites will be there. right? Now, if there are 10,000 cameras flying around already, let's say in another 2-3 years time, and clicking pictures of our Earth on a near real-time basis, and you have access to it, right? What are you going to do, right? That's where, like, the big opportunity picture is. You can build multiple things. We will come back to, we'll come to that, but that's basically the scene is set in that particular opportunity sheet. First of all, the best option is, like, so let's talk about it. Why people build satellites? People build satellites primarily to kind of do majorly three things. One, to click pictures of our planet. Two, for communication. You're making phone calls, you're downloading videos. There needs to be a communication or a interconnection required, and satellites make sense, right? You're watching television, it's streamed directly from a newsroom to your TV. So it makes sense. Most of the satellite industry operates something like this, right? There is a rocket company, which is fundamentally a courier, carrying your satellite to an orbit of your choice. It clicks a picture, downlinks the image using something called, let's say, a ground station. Then it hosts into an AWS or a server of sort. Then you observe that particular picture in a deeper manner and understand what is there, and like probably make a decision out of it. I'll come to use cases later. What we are building as Kava is, now these many satellites are up there already clicking thousands of images on a daily basis, terabytes of data on a daily basis. How do we kind of make it accessible for people like you, where you can actually like study that particular piece of data and get some insight about it? It can be varied from anywhere from rapidly understanding farm boundaries anywhere in the world, to military units observing certain countries' activity on the middle of the desert as a pure sets image. I think this is a 30 centimeter data. And of course, like, your Starlink and Kuiper project, which Amazon is doing to kind of bring in connectivity to more and more underconnected people. So in this whole spectrum, imaging is my favorite activities. I'll double click on that. Before we go, the reason I am doing this was primarily because some of the things I've done in the past. And I am, just as a background, I haven't worked in any of the space missions before. I studied physics, which I think is a grand base degree. And post that, like, it was mostly like, technology companies, but never to do with space. A few years back, a bunch of my friends said, like, midlife crisis maybe, but let's do something. The startup at that particular time, it was not a structured startup of sort, was saying that, hey, we are so bored, let's make a satellite. How hard is it going to be, right? So we didn't know anything. So we, thanks to a lot of open data out there, like, we studied, we kind of created a very tiny, small communication satellite. It was as small as 10 centimeter by 10 centimeter by 10 centimeter. This is how it looked when we were doing the bake test. You have to kind of test the temperature and vibrations before you send it out. And this is, I've hidden some of the numbers there, but mostly, like, this is pretty much the real deal. It's as big as that. It costed a fraction of what probably, like, a lot of people kind of, like, build it. The reason people build it is fundamentally, now let's talk about a little bit of history, right? The first imaging mission went around 58. It was mostly used by military units and governments and some agri companies. Even today, there's the entire ecosystem change, right? Like a lot of people you guys are probably doing engineering, you guys know machine learning pretty much, like, you can understand images, deep learning, and image analysis pretty well. Even today, for you to kind of, other than open data, to get a standard set of data to study, it's very, very hard. So it's a standard procedure. You run some models on top of it, then you scale it up. The problem with most of the imaging satellites is that, like, they're using optical sensors, right? It's a passive sensor. If you guys are, I'm assuming, like, if you don't know, you can ask your science colleagues. It's a passive sensor, so that means, like, it will just click whenever there is sun is out. The problem with that is, like, most of the time it's like cloud covered, so most of the time getting the image is also a very difficult thing. It's a tough thing to kind of achieve. Space industry fundamentally need to kind of relook at the whole thing. That's how we are kind of starting it. We build the platform fundamentally in an easy manner with a single API access. You can pretty much get anything from any satellite with just running 3 lines of code. You will get population density to weather forecast to, like, how the green clusters are doing, to rapidly understanding farms and constantly monitoring it, to understanding historic data about that particular farm, to what is growing, how well it is growing, how much is going to be the yield compared with the historic data. Pretty much all of the things, the power of about 250 satellites with single API, that's what we are building. Now, pretty much, like, this is Earth observation industry. After Kava is in, we sync data from pretty much all the satellites up there. Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good to go.
Can you guys see the screen? Okay, I have to reshare. I think somebody muted me. I can't see the chat box, so now can you guys see?
Yes, sir. Now we can see the screen.
Excellent. So I'm just going to run this whole thing again. This is a recording of Indonesian farm. The background is fundamentally, like, there are a few million corn farmers in Indonesia. They want to understand more about it. So we created an app which goes into customer apps. And this is how one of the machine learning models work in our satellite platform. This helps you rapidly identify farm boundaries for anywhere in the world. And you can select and save it so that you can get updates on a daily basis about your farm, how well it's growing, and what are the things you need to do. Starts with farm boundaries. After that, like, how much water you need to pour, or what kind of soil moisture is there, what kind of NPK ratio is that, what kind of soil carbon is there, so that you need to do any pesticides or not. Prediction of weather up to about 15 days, so that you know that, like, there's something going to happen in another 15 days, so you need to be prepared for that. All automated, pretty much like, giving it out in less than 6 seconds to the farmer. We are kind of going live with about 6 million farmers, and the ambition is in the years to come, we need to kind of onboard about 450 million farmers. We directly don't give it to farmers, we give it to our APIs to, let's say, developers like you. And if you want to kind of build a local farming app for Kerala, I urge you guys to kind of like design. I'm happy to open the API documentation and give it for free for most of the developers. And you can pretty much build anything on top of it. This is the similar one, but one of our customers are integrating. Everything kind of starts with automated farm boundaries, and then like moving on to the next things. The primary plan is how do we kind of organize satellite data in a near real-time basis. The moment it hits a ground station, whether you are a commercial operator or an open data set, can I make it in a programmable layer? And any point on earth you search as a developer, can you run deep learning models on it? That's what we fundamentally do right now. We're planning to do a bunch of things in the future, but primarily focus right now is to kind of assist such level of abstraction and give results in 300 milliseconds in the weeks to come. This is a rough explanation of it. It doesn't cover anything, I understand, but this is a time, if any of the slides you need to go back to, or you have a generic question or a deeper question, please pour in. I will answer one by one. There's one question. Hello. Hello. Right. So there are a bunch of questions pouring in. Like I'll pick one by one. Abhinav asks, how could I enter this industry without prior experience? Well, pretty much all the people started like everything. I mean, we all were like pretty. We didn't even know like how to do basic arithmetic long back, right? When we were kids, we can actually like learn it all. Experience is like sometimes useful, but sometimes experience also blocks you from taking mega risks, right? The entire world's knowledge is out in the open in the internet. You can, if you're serious, you can pretty much pick it up. If you want to kind of, whether it's like creating a app or you're creating a mini nuclear reactor, I think the person most of the time stopping is like ourselves only. So from a space industry point of view, there are a lot of things are already cleared by the Department of Space. So you can pretty much, it's a fairly straightforward process. You can go to the ISRO's division requests for certain things. They're very open. I'm fairly certain, like, it is more and more mentoring is also available at this particular point. The second question, how are these images useful to the business? What all sectors for its beneficial? So, Adivite, of course, like, agricultural value use and, of course, monitoring in defense. I think I've showed an image of a military exercise in China in that slide. Of course, like, you can look at an image and understand, right? What are those? So, let's say 1 hour interval, if you get a picture of your area of interest, you can, of course, you will get more understanding of that particular space. And biggest spenders is still military, agriculture worldwide, which is probably $35 billion. Military will be much larger than that. Infrastructure monitoring, that is satellite imagery, extremely useful or field. Mining, petroleum, city planning, of course, weather monitoring, which is basically huge. Insurance, emission tracking. Shiva, like emission tracking is huge. Studying climate change, how rivers are happening and escaping and dying. Historic data analysis for pretty much everything. If you're operating large business on Earth, you need satellite imaging. The question is, what is the process of adding farmers into the Agri map? How does it benefit individual farmers? What is your model for incentivizing farmers to join in? The 6 million farmers data you already have, where are they from? Great question. So, farmers, they don't want to spend money on not so useful things. They want to understand what is happening to their farm in a much deeper manner. They want to understand how much money they can make by putting which crop. Imagine you also know how, let's say, like, you're doing paddy, right? In 2 acres. Traditionally, you made probably like, 20,000 rupees profit per acre. What if, like, we can actually show you that how many people in that entire country or entire state or district is growing paddy? If everybody is growing paddy, the cost of paddy is going to go down. So probably we can give you early warnings to use to say that, like, hey, paddy, before you literally plan the final this thing, we can say that, hey, the pricing is not going to go well. It works when it comes to the 6 million farmers. Like, we don't do it like, we give it to our customers. Let's say that, like, some of the large agri produce companies, government organizations have their own Farmer Connect app. We sit silently in the behind and give you the API so that you can actually serve the farmer. What we learned is that when you give accurate information to the farmer, they will not delete the app. So if you are a government department and you want to create a new farmer app for the state, you pretty much have to do user management. That's it. We will give you all the intelligence required to kind of give it in to the end user. Right now, the 6 million farmers, it's usually like it's coming from 4 of our major customers. they're growing it into about 70 million by March 2022. That is also coming from all companies. You can track methane emission as well. That's another question. Sorry. I hope I answered the question from somebody from Thrissur. And another question is, what are the challenges and opportunities you see in space startups compared with the normal startup companies? Space startups are harder, in my opinion. If you're making a technology startup, the code fails. If the code fails, you can always redo it. With a satellite, there's nobody can actually go and fix it. That's a problem. So you have to be extremely careful of, that particular part. The challenges is fundamentally anybody who operating in the hardware part of it, it's difficult. The rest of it is, it's all the same. You're running a small company or you're running a large company. You only have 24 hours. You need to scale the team. You need to align the team. The rest of the challenges are all the same. Capital, pretty much all the same sources are available. As an AEP, the space startup will get, the space startup cost a little bit more. That is also a problem. How do you get satellite data? Kava Space's satellites or other private satellites? So we don't own satellites per se. We give our software to satellite owners. So we make commercial agreements with private satellite companies. This is Airbus, Planet, Boeing, Worldview, Comsat, a bunch of US ones, European ones, and Korean ones. Commercial rights, we negotiate and make it simple for our end users. Space startups, like any other startups, bring economic boom to the place it is in, from high quality jobs to overall nice things to the city. So that's I'm answering the question, what are the changes space startups can bring in the startup ecosystem? It's the same thing, it's just that the industry we are focusing is in space. The challenges are the same, the rewards are the same. Excellent. Anybody wants to double click on anything? Seems like my friends are in here. Hey all. Everything needs an MVP. So the question Madhavan asked, how did your small box satellite lead to a startup? Yeah. So small box satellite, illa startup in or MVP vanam, right? If you're making a large car company, you need to first make a stable skateboard, right? So before you build a mega thing, you need a minimum viable product. So a small box, 1.5 kg satellite, other MVP, minimum viable product. So once you do the small things, hey, I can now know how to procure, how to assemble, how to design, how to understand the physics, math of launch, design, integration, and how it is going to operate in space. And MVP, so satellite launching is not an easy task per se. I mean, I'm just generally saying easy. Design is easy, procurement is easy, building is easy, let's say comparatively easy. But you also need approvals, right? So first approval is which orbit you're going to put in. There is an approval agency for it. ഒരു സാറ്റലൈറ്റിന്റെ കമ്മ്യൂണിക്കേഷൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് you need a wireless planning commission approval or FCA approval in the US. So you need to kind of go through all that thing. So when you make a small satellite, it will kind of give you the learning before you kind of go out and build 500 satellites. Perfect. I don't know how much time we have, but please ask questions. How much time we have actually? 5 minutes? One question is how far co-working in a space as a startup is viable. I'm sorry, I don't know, but can you restructure the question? I don't understand it. Do you tell some examples that mechanical engineers can do as a startup? Mechanical engineering is amazing, right? If in space industry, mechanical engineers can first of all do anything, right? Second, in space, the whole structural part of the frames and the system integration of it is done by mechanical engineers. I have an amazing mechanical engineering team. When you guys graduate or you're already graduating, send me a note. I'll connect you to my team. The next question is, I think you mentioned you partnered with, so partnering with the launch provider is standard. Like, you have a package to send, you need a post office to send to. It's a fairly commercial one. ISRO is a bigger, it's a government organization. So you have to kind of go through certain processes, which I think 3 years back, it is fairly difficult. Now it's very smooth. If you want to do anything in space, go to ISRO's website. There is inspace@isro.gov.in, I think. Write your proposal. They will truly look at it and help you with your mission. Any advice for students venturing into new disruptive ideas like yours? Please do it. If you don't do it, who's going to do it? Disruptive ideas, just try anything, man. Like, there's no good ideas or bad ideas. It's only execution. So if you think like, you want to build, like I mentioned, my standard challenge to everybody is, with a cherry nuclear reactor, please do it, right? What about, next question is, what about ECE graduates? What is an ECE? Electronics and Communication Engineering, I'm assuming. Okay. Pretty much everything from designing circuit boards to communication system to, they are the hot property in a space company. So yeah, India has about 35 space startups right now. So I'm fairly certain, like, in all the engineering fields, you find amazing roles for you guys to apply. The next question is, how did you find the right people for your team? Storytelling, I think. How are you going to change the world? It's a very simple thing. I think I'm sure it's a cliche now, but it's like recruiting the first set of people for your pirate army. There will always be weirdos out there saying that, let's do this. Look for the weirdos, you will get it. Anybody who's fundamentally like, looking at a structured way, don't hire them. Look for the people who are fundamentally, rest of the people generally call like, this is not into that thing, then look for those people. Some sort of common shared passion to build something. Doesn't matter what you build. Those are the best people. At the early days, nobody is an expert, but at the same time, everybody is an expert. So find people, hire people who are extremely passionate and extremely open to learn anything. Whether if you are a mathematics graduate and if the company requires, or you're creating a team and you need to figure out attitude control systems for your satellite, they will never say that like, hey, I'm not an avionics engineer or an aeronautical engineer, but we just figure it out. Is ISRO, the third question Trijo asked, ISRO is having problem statements in their website to work with, or how will we know what is a problem statement? You don't have to listen to ISRO fundamentally when it comes to problems. ISRO is a research agency, so they do projects which is important for the nation. That's fine. The best way to work with is go join them. Amazing team. But there are a million other problems in the world which space can solve. So ask around, look around, what kind of problems you can solve. Google a little bit who is solving those problems. If the problem is big enough and nobody is solving it, then that's your cue to kind of start. You don't have to be you don't have to kind of, you don't need somebody to tell you to do this, right? You just want to do it. Do you have any regrets across your journey? Too young to have regrets. Maybe, I don't know. How do you get to learn about, Rajesh asked, how did you get to learn about the CubeSat and the launch process? There's tons of documents out in the open in the internet, including YouTube videos of how to integrate one. At that particular point in time, the whole things were out there in the world. So we didn't need any specific help from ISRO, but except the policy side. And yeah, the knowledge is out there. You just hack it. Perfect. We try to, okay, the question is, do you encounter any cyber threat? How do you cope with those kind of threats? See, we work with a lot of people in identifying threats and doing penetration testing on a lot of, with a lot of team members, our external help as well. But there will always be cyber attacks, let's say. You just pretty much like patch up and move on. There will always be in the modern times. I think that's going to be the reality. How do you raise the funds for the program? Yeah, so we have a bunch of investors, amazing angels and VCs who backed our vision. That's the short answer. A lot of founders from Indian ecosystem invested in our company, and a lot of VC funds as well. I'm sorry, I don't know whether the question was like, how did you raise funds for the program? The follow-up question on that is, how do you find investors? India has probably around 2,000 plus active investors, institutional investors, VCs, angels. You just Google it, who is the investor who's fitting into your philosophy. Somebody asked a question, any favorite books or movies? A lot of them. I am rereading a lot of old books right now. The next question is, do you have advices for students working on a satellite regarding if it's not a startup? Advices for students working on it, I think three things. One, your university or your school will have some support system. Making a satellite is very easy. The second thing you have to do is write to your local ISRO center, VSSC in Trivandrum or satellite center in Bangalore. They're extremely helpful people. I can't stress this enough. They will truly help you in technical knowledge, as well as identifying some support systems and mentors and other things. Funding, it's like raising money for your school fest, right? It's going to probably cost about 1 crore, let's say, or 5 lakh, not 5 lakhs. It's going to cost about 25 lakh rupees, let's say, for a small satellite. You can raise it. You guys are anyway raising funds for your annual fest. What do you think is the future of space startups? That's another question. Nice. I think it is just getting started. It's still the day zero for space anywhere in the world. It's going to get better. Jacob asked, how much was your total capital requirements? I can't share that information, but it was a reasonable sum. Anything else? Any Mars plans? Actually, we do have Mars plans. Our software will go to Mars in one form or other in a few years' time. So yeah, just to while filling in information, fundamentally, if you are a student or anyone who wants access to our APIs, it's free of cost. Please go to developers.kava.space or just write to me, Chris@kava.space, or just go to our website and there's a chat engine which comes to me. I'll assign an API key for you. I can't wait to see you guys designing new solutions using space data for your local industries or anywhere in the world, and happy to help and happy to support. developers.kava.space. Just go to kava.space, there is a link.
Okay, there are questions we'll quickly take 1 or 2 questions. I think if there are no more questions, I think thank you, Chris, for spending at least an hour with us, explaining about just sharing your journey on the space startup, as well as some of the prospects, challenges. You shared, I think, everything, and you answered the questions too. So on behalf of KDISC and on behalf of all the participants, thank you very much, and we'll meet you again. Thank you. And thank you, participants, for your wholehearted participation also. അടുത്ത ആഴ്ച നമ്മളൊരു പുതിയ പ്രഭാഷകനുമായി അടുത്ത ഈ ഒരു കേരള ഇന്നോവേഷൻ ടോക്ക് സീരീസിന്റെ 3ാം പ്രഭാഷണ പരമ്പര വരുന്നതാണ്. Till then, okay, bye-bye. Take care.